You're watching the 5 Minute Bark Podcast on YouTube. If you like this episode, you just may like many more. Subscribe today by clicking the red subscribe button in the top right-hand corner. All right, today we've got an interesting guy here today from Maryland, Joe White. I found Joe White an interesting conversation on Facebook, as most of my guests come from Facebook nowadays because there's just so many interesting topics going on out there. And we were talking about, he was talking about how men need to be men. And it's such a great subject now, especially in this day and age where things are just kind of going in a different direction. And some men are confused, and we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to introduce you, Joe, here today. And I didn't even know what he did. I just kind of reached out to him randomly. I was in the middle of things. I said, I want this subject on my podcast. But turns out Joe is an amazing human being. He's actually a coach and a success coach at that. And he's got a company called Get Coached. Am I right on that?
Get Life Coaching.
Get Life Coaching. That's right. Get Life Coaching. As you guys can see, I don't read off anything here. There's no notes in the show. We just turn record on. So, Joe White, say hello to everybody out there.
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be here.
And it's a pleasure to have you on here, totally random on the show here today. Joe, tell everybody about the story you just told me about actually, your life. I mean, this is pretty cool.
Right. So grew up outside of Philadelphia, never wanted to become a coach, no interest. 23 years ago, moved to New York City to pursue a modeling career. I had became friends with a very famous photographer, did a whole bunch of stuff under Growing So magazine, Vanity Fair, Valentino. Got a job at a nightclub called the Limelight. It was a discotheque, 20th century discotheque. They converted from a church to a discotheque. And my life went downhill there. Started meeting some wrong people, started partying. It's like a VH1 special. Eventually overdosed, died. EMTs resuscitated me, got out of the hospital, continued to use. Figure it wasn't me, it was New York City. So I moved back home with my parents, got kicked out of my parents' house, and found myself in a small 2-room apartment. I was depressed, on antidepressants, seeing psychiatrists and psychologists. Up at 1 o'clock in the morning, saw an infomercial for Tony Robbins, thought it was a bunch of crap, right? And I watched that same infomercial, Dennis, for 3 consecutive nights because I became fascinated with some of the concepts in there. Eventually, I bought those tapes. That was November of 1993. Took me to St. Patty's Day. Only a true addict or alcoholic would pick that day to give it all up. But I did. And I got clean in 1994. But I listened to those tapes over and over again for 5 years. Because, I've been to therapy and I would walk in feeling like crap and I would leave feeling almost worse, right? And it was the first time I began to understand we can control what we think, what we say, what we feel, and we do. And finally, in 1999, I opened at 2 clients on the phone, coaching clients, and opened up Get Life Coaching in my basement long before this term life coaching or coaching became trendy.
Awesome. So one thing I think was really cool that you said is that the tapes you kept on watching, listening to them over and over again for years and years and years. What are some of the things that just gave you that power, that an initiation to just get motivated and move forward? That you probably, I mean, there's obviously a ton. I listened to those tapes 600 times myself, probably 800 times. But what's one thing that kind of sticks out in your mind right now that you remember listening to them saying?
Well, the thing that hooked me on the infomercial, Dennis, was when Tony said, your past does not equal your future. Obviously, for you to get into a serious, life-threatening drug addiction, there are some underpinning issues, right, that really drives addiction. Because addiction is just how a coping mechanism, right, that chemically, emotionally addicts you to keep doing it. And, for me, it was totally about saving my life. Because I would not be here if it wasn't for those tapes. If I didn't apply my own, I would use the Tony phrase here, right? My own, personal taking action and my own personal power to move myself forward. But it was really the skills, right? It wasn't necessarily a concept, because he talked about outcomes. He talked about, it was NLP back then, and I'm an NLP trainer today. Back then, I didn't even know what NLP was, or when Tony calls it NAC, neuroassociative conditioning. But it was the fact that it was mechanical. It was the fact that if you close your eyes and you ran a pattern backwards, forward, put crazy music on it, it changed the way you perceive things because it changed the way that memory was in your brain. Now, I didn't know how to articulate it back then. I just did what Tony said to do on the tapes. But it gave me the feeling like, look, man, I really can control these things. I wasn't just this kid that felt like crap, felt like, I didn't belong here in this world. And by doing that, I found a way to get by life or adapt in spite of all this crap that I felt. That could really create a change in me, and I had the power to do that.
So in other words, like people say, like change your diet, you're changing your mind diet, so to speak, right? You're actually, hey, I can do certain things and I'll change my body and make me healthy. Well, same thing with the mind. It is fixable. It is fixable because people will say, "Oh, you can't fix your body." You can if you eat the right foods and you think and act the right way. Same with the situation you're talking about. It's like it's almost like a diet for the mind, almost, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The brain works a certain way, right? I mean, memories are always changing. Every time you access a memory, it changes greatly or a small level, but it changes. So, the brain works a very certain way. Most of the times people just go through life, and as we adapt, as we change, as experiences, we just fall into a pattern and stay consistent with those patterns. But if you understand how to work those patterns or how the brain works and stores information, stores memories, functions, you can use that same mechanism to make it work for you, not against you. So it's a difference of like a recipe or learning how to cook. I can teach you a recipe and you'd be great at making a dish. I'd rather teach people how to cook so they can make that recipe and anything else.
I love it. I really love it because I'm thinking back to all the tapes I was listening to, and to see that this is your life now. It's just amazing because, all of us started way back when listening to actually cassette tapes, right?
Yep.
Personal Power 1, 2, and cassette tapes. And then now I just went and saw Tony Robbins for the first time live in March of last year. And
did you firewalk?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I did do that.
We do a lot of fire. I'm a master firewalk instructor, so we do firewalks for our own seminars, and we do them for a company like GE and Heineken and Google and things like that. Love firewalking. How was your experience?
I did it. I didn't. Sure, it's got a little burn from it, but it's a really amazing experience because one, it's happening at 1:30 in the morning, so and there's 1,000 people there. 7,000 people. I can't believe they got through those people so fast. But if you're not in the right mind, you're not going to walk across it, which kind of states exactly what it is. It's like, I have friends I talk to, I would never, ever, ever do that. And it's like, okay, you can do it. And it was definitely pretty powerful. So I have a lot of, I actually was in for a few seconds, one of Tony Robbins' infomercials. So in 2005, yeah. I used to be an extreme sports bike rider. So he did one with us. And it's really cool. So I got a big tie to Tony Robbins, but you're on the show here today because of a great subject. It's one I've been talking with my friends quite a bit now, and I guess you and I share that East Coast. You're obviously from the East Coast, and there's a little more in men there than other parts of the country. Because we're not in metro areas and so on and so forth, and we're not adapting to that different thing. And we're kind of looking at this whole situation where men are not standing up for being men. And I want you to share your post, a little bit about your post and kind of where you're going with that. And I'd love to kind of dive into that a little bit. Do you mind?
Sure. From my coaching, my whole concept is, if you took a pyramid and turn it upside down and there's the apex is at the bottom, in that space is a collection of core patterns. And if you align and adjust those core patterns, it shifts everything above it, right? That's always been my approach. And God, probably for the last 12 years, a center of what we focus on is masculine and feminine energy. Where John Gray, Men Are from Mars, Women from Venus, talked about males and females, accurate but a little bit off. And this is not like energy work, like Reiki and things like that, but how the brain perceives the world and ourselves. And we all have a core, and most men are masculine, most women are feminine, right? But through life, through experiences, we shift, we lose our core. I was a mama's boy, so I spent a lot of my male energy. Instead of being my male, I was more my female, because that's what I connected to. And we have a lot of out of balance. And helping someone return to their core energy solves so much of the problems, or make all the other challenges that person has to work with a heck of a lot easier to deal with, because you have that natural alignment there, right? And I get a lot of men. I got tons of females, clients, but I get a lot of male clients, and so many of their men, I start realizing, are out of their male energies, whether it became from their relationship with their mom, or they didn't connect with their dad, or through different experiences, or maybe we just don't really fully understand what a man is in today's world. And when we're not in our core male energy, and there's a difference, guys, between male energy and being macho. See, you can be macho and not be in your male energy. And there's evolutions of your male energy. So in other words, it's more than fine for us to make love to our woman, roll over, go to bed, or go to work, right? But if we want a great relationship with our significant other, if we want her to feel the fullness of our love, then we have to truly, connect with her and nurture that. So there's evolutions and enlightenment when it comes to this male energy. So for many, many men, since it's undefined and unsure, we've lost our way a bit. So, I'm looking on Facebook, and Facebook is a great incubator to social concepts and ideas and trends. And it started with Chelsea Clinton, and you saw it with the Bushes, and you saw it with Obama's children, and now and also the wives, especially with Hillary, you saw it. With Michelle, you saw it. Not so much with George W.'s wife, but you're seeing with Melania now, and you're seeing with their child, and you're seeing this like attack on what they wear, who they are, calling them derogatory terms, racist terms, ethnic slurs. And I don't voice my political opinions on there, but I made a promise to myself a little while ago that if I see something, I think being a man is part of my duty and responsibility to step up and share that in a way that people can understand it, or at least in my world try to. And so I start seeing a lot of men just like taking out women, taking out Michelle Obama, taking out Melania, taking out the kids. And I just was driving to actually one of my seminars, driving home from a firewalk I did. And so I got to write about this, because it's really unacceptable. Because there was a time when, when men protected women and children, regardless of ideology, right? And I won't even get into what we say about Obama or what we say about Trump. We'll put that aside. We'll narrow the field a little bit so we can gain a little bit more greater clarity. And in reading it, it was, someone posted a picture of Melania, and some people comment. And someone posted a picture of Michelle Obama, goes, "Oh, she just looked like a gorilla," right? And the guy who kind of wrote something, I was surprised that not one man or he kind of stepped up and said "No, you freaking a-hole here," right? So somewhere along the way we lost our way. And it's easy for us to hide behind this Facebook, our keyboard, or this is our political ideology. Because I think men, we need to be better. We need to be better than what we were, because that's who we are. But for majority of men, we're either undefined of what a true man is in today's world, or we just lost our way. And there's contributing factors and ways out of it too. But I want to kind of write something that hopefully connect it to some people and maybe create some dialogue.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's definitely a different time right now. I mean, giving an example is I have many friends that are in the corporate world, and you just can't speak out because the consequences are so overwhelming. You could lose your job, and you lose friends, and especially obviously with this political thing going on. I'm a Trump fan, and I have a lot of friends out there. They can't speak about it because they'll literally lose friends. They'll lose different things. You cannot speak your mind anymore. And that's hard as a man because you want to speak your mind, whether it's right or wrong. I mean, you can speak and be wrong, but at least if you spoke, you got it out, right? I mean, we're not perfect. Let's face it. I mean, nobody's perfect.
I think there's different ways here, right? Because if you look at archetypes, I work big with the archetypes of like the Carl Jung archetypes, right? And what we can do is one thing, and what as men to really reach our fullest potential is something else, right? So you can speak your mind, but isn't it kind of like how you speak your mind? You know what I mean? You can speak your mind. You can speak your mind and decimate. And talk about the problems or find holes. Come on. It doesn't matter what side of the street you live on. There's hypocrisy from both sides. There are people who are against gay and lesbian marriage because they want to protect the sanctity of marriage, who's been divorced 5 times, right? There are people right now who are Democrats saying, I'm not supporting the president, but, they were kind of getting on the Republican case for not supporting Obama. So hypocrisy runs on both sides of the street. The question is, if you're just communicating about the problem, then you're doing it more about the significance of it. Because masculine energy in our greatest form is about significance to matter, right? No, I need to be significant. I kill the dragon to get the daughter's hand in marriage, a reward from the king, or achievement and accomplishment. So if we're doing it just to kind of fill ourselves, to like, look how much I know and I'm better than you, right, then it's really then shallow. If it really creates dialogue for solutions to bringing people together, one of the higher levels of male energy is empathy and compassion. And that's more from the feminine side, because you see this, like as men get older, sometimes, right, if we meet the right woman, they'll teach us how to love more, how to be more softer, more compassionate without losing our core, just become more evolved. And or children. My daughter celebrated her 3rd birthday today. Definitely has taught me to become a little bit more softer and understanding. Because one of the things I said there is, you know what? You can be any type of man you want. But as a friend of mine told me, and a client of mine we're coaching, is I want to be the type of man that she would bring home to me when she gets older, right? I don't want to be like what I don't want to see her bring through the door. I want to be the example of what I do want. So it's not just speaking the mind, it's also the intention behind it. Does that make sense? I love that.
I really love what you're saying there. It's just exactly where we need to go as men. Is
right.
Be in that direction. And the word, I was using this just the other day, the word, and I'm blanking, but you just said it. It was significance. Significance is really a big, powerful word in this situation. And I'm glad we got the chance to chat about this, because it's really something that's really big out there, and finding our way is much important. Is there any direction you can give people for finding their way? Whether it's through your company or different things that you've been doing to do your research, to kind of, obviously friends have helped you, and to see that as well.
Yeah. Well, if anyone ever wants to reach out to me, I'm easy, Joe White on Facebook or getlifecoaching.com. That's really easy to get a hold of me there. I do think it's important to understand the progression here, because if you kind of look at those archetypes, we can be the warrior, right? We can just go out there, but the warrior is detached. They have a mission to serve the master, but now then you have the merchant, a mercenary who just, they're just a hired gun. And being that warrior is a good place to be, but we can't spend our whole lives there, regardless of whatever, because ultimately all warriors get killed in the journey. But there are some that survive and evolve, and they become king. And king's about bringing peace and harmony and prosperity to the land. The king brings the people together after war, right? So I do think we need to reach to a higher level. But if you're sitting there out there thinking like, oh my God, what do I do? I think one of the key things is we got to connect to something greater than ourselves, because when we're younger as men, we become about us. What do I need to be successful? What do I need to accomplish and achieve? Even though your intention might be great for someone else, it's still about me. And I think as we get older, it can shift, if we choose to be more about growth and contribution, more about the we than me. So we got to attach to a higher purpose. You might call it legacy, what you leave behind. You might talk about your children. You might talk about your society, your church, whatever it is. But men grow when they stop thinking about me and how it's impacting me and how it's impacting others, and we put our energy there. I also think for men, it's important for us to be the type of man that we want to be. We're wired to do things to get love, right? To accomplish, to succeed, to be the provider for the family. And there's goodness in that, but there's also traps in that too. So I think one of the big things is we got to identify, be the man that we are, and do those things because it's who we are. In other words, do it regardless of reward. Because if we're doing it for reward, then it erodes the very base of what we are. And I think the third thing is we got to find edges that push us. And how many friends you have, or how many reposts or retweets or video game kills doesn't really mount to the edge that we live. We become soft as men. In other words, we do these things to fill us, to make us feel like men. But at the end of the day, they're empty calories, if I'm going to use your food analogy. They're not sustainable. Right. We got to find edges that cause us to push and grow, excuse me, and hopefully push us outside what we perceive to be our comfort zone.
There's a book an audio book that I listened to that has 90% of what you're talking into it, and I wanted to share with people too. It's called The Way of the Superior Man. I'm not sure if you've ever listened to that or not.
Required reading.
Did you have it? You have it as well?
Yeah. Well, David Data's book was a lot of the foundation which I grew this from. You know what I mean? Because he's a little wordy, right? But the information is spot on. Spot on.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally to that. If you guys are interested in that, also, it's called The Way of the Superior Man, and he talks exactly about that, of how, just like you're saying here, is how you. Obviously you develop yourself, but it's in the end of giving. It's a giving. You're not going to be looking for reward. You're just giving, knowing that it's just you're giving yourself to this world, and
that's where men can create the greatest impact and feel the most fulfilled, when we shift to that space.
Yes,
where it's not self-filling, it's more about reaching out to others.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, I mean, we're in a relationship with a man and a woman, as he talks about, is women are ever growing. They are the fruit of the world, but they're always demanding more, and men are always looking for, well, I just did this and I just did this. I mean, are you kidding me? I just moved the earth over so the sun wouldn't crash into it, and you want more. But if you're doing it from a place of just giving and not, it's just your contribution. Is the word.
Right. Because when we think about that, right, for men, we want that reward. We want that significance of saying, good job. And if we were talking about feminine energy, we could talk about how it help us men, to get that, or not everything be jumping through a hoop. But at the end of the day, when too many men make it about themselves.
Yes.
I can't make you happy, so I'm going to pull back. I'm going to shut down. I'm going to come out of my male energy. So we use external reasons to dictate internal behavior, and that erodes the foundation of our masculine energy.
Awesome. Joe, you're amazing. I love you. You're crystal clear on what we were trying to accomplish here today, and I want to thank you so much for coming on. We're already 3 minutes over our time. Went by so fast. And I also want to thank you for your patience before the show. I had an interview that kind of ran over and so on and so forth. But if you're out there, Joe White here today on the 5 Minute Mark. I found him on Facebook. I found him under Joe White. Somehow we became friends, I guess, because I have a lot of coaches as friends. I tend to have a lot of them on my show naturally. And it's funny because I'm sitting here going, I got another coach. I got another. And I'm like, you're doing your business plans, that kind of time of the year. And I'm like, well, wow, I attract coaches. It's just that way. But Anyway, he's got a great company here today. If you want to reach out with him, you can find him on Facebook at Joe White. Again, we're talking about men here today and coming into their significance. And it's a big thing. I know I'm working on it all the time. And obviously you are too. And many of us out there are, because we are in a changing times. Times are always changing, and you got to adapt, and you got to learn and grow. And I guess find yourself too. So.
Yep.
Awesome. Anything you want to add to have people find you or anything like that over and beyond?
No, I'll just repeat my website. It's getlifecoaching.com. You can email me at joewhite@getlifecoaching.com. And just, if you Google Get Life Coaching on Facebook, you'll find me one way or the other.
Awesome. Joe, thanks again for coming on. And listeners, thank you for listening here today. We truly appreciate you coming on and listening. And there's been some magic happening with you guys out there as well. Some of you reached out and had some changes in your life, and keep doing it. Keep rocking it. Keep going forward. And we're out. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're watching the 5 Minute Bark Podcast on YouTube. If you like this episode, you just may like many more. Subscribe today by clicking the red subscribe button in the top right-hand corner.